issue. My name is Emeka Ugwuonye. I am a lawyer trained in Nigeria and in the United States. I have been a lawyer for exactly 30 years today. I spent most of my adult and professional life in the United States, practicing law and working for organizations, international organizations like the World Bank. I also worked at Harvard Law School, which was a school I graduated in the United States. After many years in the United States, I decided to come back to Nigeria to do something by way of giving back to my country, contributing in the area that I felt I was most equipped to contribute to, and that is law. And in that process, I established an organization known today as the Due Process Advocates Foundation. And the essence of that organization is to increase and broaden across the board access to justice, to make it possible for the average citizen of Nigeria to access justice, to reduce impediments and obstacles that would prevent people from being able to protect themselves and to enjoy the rights that are granted to them by law. My first challenge in that process was that I encountered the Nigerian police. Originally, I was looking at access to justice in the very broadest sense of it. But I was forced to understand that the biggest obstacle to justice in Nigeria was the Nigerian police, which is in itself an irony, because you will expect that the police would be the agent of law and order, that the police would be that place people go to when their rights are undermined, when they are oppressed, and when they are violated. So when the police, to my observation, turned out to be the worst place to go when your rights are abused, and when the police became, in my observation, the greatest abuser of rights, I was very shocked. It totally changed my approach to my work. Instead of making it a general issue of facilitating access to justice, reducing cost of lawyering, and making law easily understandable by an average person, it became a question of challenging police brutality and atrocity. And as I went into this task, I realized it was far more worse than I had ever estimated. The police did practically everything that the bad guys are supposed to do. And the police did exactly the opposite of what they were meant to do. So gradually, I found myself constantly in opposition to the Nigerian police, elements in the Nigerian police. I emphasize elements in the Nigerian police because I have been constantly reminded that there are some good police officers. But that goes without saying. There must be some good police officers, and I have seen some of them. But it takes a little drop of poison to poison an entire pool. The entire pool doesn't have to be poison itself, substance. It takes few police officers in critical positions. Something else struck me, and which I am happy you are giving me the opportunity to address today. If the problem of Nigeria were just that the police were bad, if that was just the problem, it would suggest that other law enforcement agencies like DSS, like EFCC, and others will be good. But that's not correct. It will also suggest that other institutions involved in law, administration of criminal justice, or administration of justice generally, like the courts, like the prisons, will be all right. But no, to my shock, the rot is very widespread and comprehensive. Systemically, if the police were the only wrong agency, then the court will correct it. The system of checks and balances in a democratic structure is actually designed in such a way that if there is a problem in one area, another area that is good will correct it. For instance, if the police arrest a person wrongly, you will expect that the court will stop the police. You expect that the victims of police abuse and atrocities will be able to go to the courts and get redress. But that is not the case in Nigeria, to my observation. The court system is corrupt. The police are able to influence and collude with judges and magistrates, and rights are abused. Indeed, worse still, the police were able to pervert the key institutions of administration of justice in Nigeria. I'll give you another example. The Constitution in Section 35 defines the issues of arrest and detention by the police. We call it the liberty provisions of the Constitution. If you arrest a person, being a police officer, the Constitution anticipates that the police could be biased, the police could be corrupt. So the Constitution gave the police 24 hours maximum period of detention without a court order. It is the design of the Nigerian Constitution that a person cannot lose his liberty without judicial involvement. The Constitution actually wanted to make sure that it is the judiciary that will determine when a person loses his liberty. Because the police only had a limited scope of time. If you arrest a person and detain him, it must be for the purpose of taking him to court. The police do not have independent detention authority. It must be for the purpose of presenting a person to a court. And the Constitution figured out that 24 hours would be a reasonable period to take a person to court. The Constitution was specific in terms of the amount of time given to the police to detain people. The Constitution made it 24 hours. The Constitution did not say as soon as possible. The Constitution did not say take him to court within a reasonable time. The Constitution did not tell the police take him to court as soon as practicable. The Constitution did not tell the police, well, if you deem it necessary or urgent, take him to court. No. The Constitution gave 24 hours. If you look at the entire scope of Nigerian constitutional provisions as well as other parts in the world, you will find out that this was the only time the Constitution gave a time limit within hours. This was the only time that the Constitution was so specific as to the amount of time within which something must happen. However, Nigerian policemen totally abandoned, ignored this Constitution regarding detention period. Nigerian police created private prisons, secret and illegal prisons all over the country. One of them, of which I was familiar with, was the Abattoir detention center in Abuja. When I was detained in Abattoir, I met people who had been detained for 3 years without going to court, turned a 24-hour time window into an indefinite period of time, which extended to 3 years in some instances. So, and you will ask yourself, how is this possible? When I got into Abattoir, I was shocked. What struck me was that these guys were running an illegal prison. They were holding people for such length of time, and they were holding many people. In Abattoir, they had over 1,000 people when I saw it. Something else struck me. If you look at Section 34 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of Nigeria, their new criminal procedure law in Nigeria, which was supposed to cure ambiguities and problems in the prior laws. In Section 34 of that law, it provides that the chief judge of Abuja, EFCC, Abuja Capital Territory, Federal Capital Territory, FCT, should appoint chief magistrate to go from detention center to detention center. That is, the magistrate was supposed to be visiting every police detention center, at least, I'm using the language of the law, at least once a month, to find out who is being detained there, why they're being detained there, why they have not been gone to court, and the magistrate was to make sure those people are to court rather than being in police detention. So that law was supposed to indeed give effect to the constitutional time limit for detention of people. But do you know, I'm sure Nigerians will be shocked to know that even there was no record of the chief judge or the chief magistrate visiting abattoir. No record. It was in 2020, in 2019, while I was in prison, detained, I will get to that later, that I began to speak to my people in DPA, and we were able to write a series of petitions to the Chief Justice, to the Attorney General, and to the Chief Judge of Abuja. It was then that the Chief Judge was able to visit, or the Chief Magistrate was able to visit abattoir with so many magistrates and judges, and they were able for the first time to release about 600 people from abattoir and transfer them to prison. So there is a whole lot more to say, but I guess this was intended to be an introduction. Let me stop and hear more questions so I can elaborate on why Nigerian police became the greatest threat to law and order in Nigeria. Nigerian police force became the biggest criminal gang in Nigeria. The Nigerian police became the extreme opposite of what they were designed to be. And when I say this, I have instances. Hopefully, as this progresses, I'll have questions that will require me to give very illustrative events and incidents. It is in the context of that decay, it is in the context of that systemic failure that you will begin to situate what happened to Abba Kyari. In fact, I will stress here before I stop. In the FBI investigation of Abba Kyari, they found out that Hush Puppy instructed Abba Kyari to arrest a person, and Abba Kyari arrested the person. And the whole scheme was done for the purpose of facilitating a fraud scheme by Hush Puppy. So by implication, a criminal was able to direct the Nigerian police officer on what to do. And the Nigerian police officer obeyed that criminal, and in the process facilitated the commission of a crime. That is the angle that the FBI and the US Justice Department is pursuing as regards Abba Kyari. I want you to know that Abba Kyari is not alone. This is not an isolated incident. Personally, Abba Kyari has been doing that to what extent? And not only Abba Kyari, many senior police officers do that. In fact, I would tell you that it is hard to find any senior police officer in Nigeria who would not arrest somebody on the behest of a wealthy person paying him money to do so.
Emeka?
Yes.
Are you okay? Are you done with the introduction?
Yeah, no, yes, yeah. I have given you the background to my interest in this topic, my understanding of what this topic is about.
Okay, thank you. Now, the theme for today's discussion is Abba Kyari, the Façade of Nigerian police fight against corruption. Following the changed mantra of the present administration, the fight against corruption has become that we gain momentum. But from your introduction alone, you said clearly that this is a lie and is a facade. Now, you also talked about instances where you would mention police officers and people that are interested or that have been involved in these corrupt practices. Can you please expatiate on that?
Well, I don't think I got all your questions right, but let me, I believe you wanted me to expand on this,
on the instances,
on my view.
On the instances. I want you to expand on the instances, especially about police officers that have been caught or that are involved in corrupt practices.
Okay, very well. When I landed in Abattoir, I met about 1,000 detainees. Abattoir has two sections. There is the general hall where they detain most of the people. That hall had about 1,000 when I got in there. But there was also another detention center run by Abba Kyari. Within Abattoir, there was what they call the underground, where people were detained, mostly abattoirs. Abba Kyari's, that's IRT detainees, were said to be the ones there. And that is where it was said that executions occur. That is where people, if you go there, you might not come out. Indeed, 80% of the people that went there would never come out. So in terms of that, it was happening. I was in that place for 2 weeks. It was an opportunity for me to interview about 500 inmates, find out what happened to them, find out their cases. As a lawyer, it was quick for me to understand, analyze the processes that led a person to abattoir, what offense he committed, what he was charged with, how he got the scars and injuries on his body, how he got maimed. I saw that. And all gave the same explanation. They were probably raided at a venue where armed robbery had occurred a day or two before. And they just happened to be there. When the police came, took them, and they ultimately ended up at abattoir, tortured until they confessed. Some were maimed. One of the ways the Nigerian police tortured these people was to tie rubber around their arms. They tie rubber around the arms of these people, cutting off blood supply, and after 30 minutes or so, the arm becomes paralyzed. I noticed that they normally tie the left arm. These people were paralyzed on the left arm. I was curious, how come it was the left arm always? I didn't understand why it was the left arm until I saw a man whose right arm was paralyzed. To me, he was an exception. I asked him, how come his right arm was the one paralyzed? Only for me to learn that the man was left-handed. He was left-handed. So the police will paralyze the arm that will not use to write the statement or sign the statement they will give you to sign. In that man's case, because he was left-handed, it was his left hand that he would need to sign this police statement. So they paralyzed his right arm. So put yourself in my position. You are detecting a pattern, consistent pattern. It was unbelievable. It was like I was in a horror movie. Yet I was keenly interested in identifying pattern of behavior of police officers, pattern of injuries, where they hit them, where they injured them. Then I was also able to determine or observe the pattern of deaths. They were dying at abattoir, mostly of starvation. These people are held there, their relatives will come, and money is extorted from these relatives. It built up over time. This was like a horror. And I asked myself, are we in a country? Are people aware of this? In fact, the police went to some extent to hide what was going going on in abattoir. Once you will not get, they don't let lawyers come to abattoir. Many Nigerian lawyers will tell you they will not go to abattoir if their client is arrested and detained there, because they could be harassed, they could be intimidated. But they have also been very careful to keep certain people away from abattoir. Detaining me in abattoir, I believe, was a mistake, a miscalculation. Because when I saw what happened in abattoir, my life changed. I could not just walk away. And that compounded problems for me. When I say people are dying of starvation, do you know? The poorest of people were arrested and kept there. Nobody came for them, and the police did not feed them. Not a single food. Initially, I thought that it was because there was no budget to feed them. And I assumed that there wouldn't be budget to feed them because nobody anticipated that the police would detain people. It was much later that I learned that there was budget to feed them, but the police embezzled the budget. I knew this up to the time when I was in prison. The Red Cross people sent someone to see me, and they regularly saw me in prison when I was no longer under the control of the police. They interviewed me. They said they were following my case, but they couldn't interview me in abattoir because they knew they were being watched. And we communicated. I shared with them my observation. And I was shocked when the name of a particular police officer was mentioned, and the leader of the Red Cross team that came to the prison talking to me privately said to me he was a mass murderer. He referred to the police officer as a mass murderer. I had the impression that that police officer was responsible for many extrajudicial killings. But I did not know that Red Cross people were aware. So I asked him, how did that happen? How did you come to this conclusion? And he observed that somebody was starving the inmates, leading to the death of about 5 every week. Starvation. If you see these people, it was terrible. It was terrible. But another thing is that Abba Kyari's own cell, Abba Kyari will not allow anybody access to the cell. Nobody will go and see people there. It was so controlling, so powerful that nobody. And the police actually conspired sometimes, because in the past, I learned there were occasions when the judges might come to abattoir to observe, and they will hide inmates. The police will come early in the morning, pack the inmates in trucks, and take them somewhere to behind buildings or finished buildings in the abattoir area. And they will leave a few people who had been recently arrested and who did not have torture injuries. And judges will come and say, how long have you been here? He said, he got here a week or so. And everything will look normal. But what made it possible for the chief magistrate of Abuja to catch them in 2019 was because of our petition. DPA petition actually included pictures of abattoir and showing the congestion of abattoir. So when the judges came that morning, they informed them they were coming the first time. So they packed all these inmates and moved them away. And when the judges got into the abattoir, they didn't see what they saw in the picture. They began to ask very tough questions, which they should have asked all these years. They began to interrogate the inmates. And one of the inmates was forced to reveal that the inmates were packed out that morning by 6 a.m. The judges went back. And in less than a week, they came unannounced. By 8 a.m., the judges were there. Even the police officers were being called from the home that the judges were there. They almost resisted the judges' entry. But the judges finally got in there and they were shocked. Somebody who observed it told me that some of the justices wept when they saw the deplorable state of humanity, leading them to evacuate about 600 from abattoir. DPA wrote a petition, and the petition triggered that chain of events, which we liked so much. But the killings, the abuses, the extortion is endless. Why did I get arrested? As I speak to you, I'm standing trial for armed robbery and murder. How did that happen? When was the murder committed? When was the armed robbery committed? Because the Nigerian police understand they can silence you, as was done in Hush Puppy case, by just arresting you and locking you up, if they can do that. But if they took somebody like me, they knew questions would be asked, so they had to be more subtle. And what did they do? They charged me with armed robbery and murder. Once done, it is understood that once done, bail will be denied, which is an absurdity. Under Nigerian Constitution, all crimes involve presumption of innocence. There shouldn't be a crime where bail is automatically denied. But the practice, and this is why I said that the judicial system and other institutions support the police, they came up with the idea that certain offenses are bailable and non-bailable, which is an absurdity. The Constitution doesn't have bailable and non-bailable offenses. All offenses are bailable, because bail is based on presumption of innocence. But in any event, because of the permissive judicial system that made it possible for these police to do what they do, even if they do not go and bribe the judge, which they do often, they can actually just stick you with murder. It doesn't matter the fact that they have nothing in the proof of evidence to substantiate the allegation. But the word murder, one word, justifies your detention. And once you are denied bail, the same police will do everything to delay the trial of the case, to make sure you stay in detention for as long as possible. So it is a problem. It is systemic. It is not a thing that we can just solve by removing one police officer. And it is not just within the police, it's all, and I mentioned the case of the EFCC, it's like that. Only last month, I won an EFCC case against me, which they in 2011. Why? Why EFCC embarked upon a hopeless trial, which they knew they would lose, and I stayed in trial, facing criminal trial for 10 good years. And when the case was lost, guess why it was lost? Because the court had no jurisdiction. And the motion seeking to dismiss the case because the court had no jurisdiction was filed in 2012. So it was 9 years ago that the court was informed that it had no jurisdiction. EFCC said, no, let us wait until the trial is over before the court could look into jurisdiction. They presented their own case. They took 10 years to present their own case, and at the end of it, the court came back to decide the motion that was filed in 2011, dismissing the case on the basis that the court had no jurisdiction. I gave you EFCC, even though we are speaking of the police today. I have to mention the EFCC because it will be somewhat deceptive to give the Nigerians the impression that if only we correct the police, everything will be all right. No, the system is so decadent and so rotten across the board. So instances abound. Abba Kyari is one, and we may discuss more. We may discuss more in the context of what the FBI was able to see in Abba Kyari, because many Nigerians don't yet understand the scope of investigation that nailed Abba Kyari. It wasn't as simple as it looked. It wasn't as simple. FBI did not look only at the conversation between Hush Puppy and Abba Kyari. No, FBI must have obtained through subpoena every message received or sent from Abba Kyari's WhatsApp number. So FBI would have traced his contacts, traced the contacts of his contacts. All FBI needed to do was to expand the subpoena to see more things. And once they got all of this, they could see that Hush Puppy was not the only one who instructed Abba Kyari to deal with somebody, to silence someone. They would also have seen instructions where the instruction, or rather, seen messages where the instruction was to execute or kill somebody. So, but the FBI is focused, and the main case, or rather, more will come out when Abba Kyari lands in the United States, if he lands in the United States. I know with a certainty that if Abba Kyari lands in the United States, he's going to plead guilty. He has to plead guilty. If he doesn't plead guilty, his trial would be like a roll call of people silenced by him. Absolutely.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Ugwuonye.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. You can hear me. Remember that you can join the conversation simply by raising your hand, and I will try to accommodate as much questions and comments from participants as possible.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I think the fact that I was
talking to the other participants. I said they can raise their two hands, and I will try to accommodate as much questions or comments from them as
accessible to the FBI. We don't even have to go. So we don't even have to go to the NSA, National Security Agency in the United States, which sees a lot more. But so from the IGP point of view, Abba Kyari is going to the United States. He's going to be interrogated by the FBI. We want to know what he'll be saying to the FBI. They want to hear Abba Kyari. It's a self-protection mechanism. They want to know the kind of things Abba Kyari will be divulging to the FBI when he's interviewed. And if you ever have been in a room where these people interview a suspect or an accused person, you will laugh, really. You will understand the hellfire that Abba Kyari is going to face when he lands there. You're going to have people from the state attorney, the district attorney, sorry, the district attorney who in Central California. He is there. He's the chief prosecutor in that district. He's going to be there either directly or his assistants. Then you're going to have FBI guys that are going to be there. Then you're going to have Treasury Department investigative agents who are there because money laundering is involved, money moved from bank to bank. So, and perhaps other agencies of U.S. law enforcement will be there. They will ask Abba Kyari questions. And those guys don't ask questions if they don't have an answer. They already have the answers of the questions they ask. They made sure of that. So when they got Hush Puppy, they had Abba Kyari in view. But the problem was it would be difficult for them to prosecute Abba Kyari if Hush Puppy was denying involvement of if Hush Puppy was denying. Can you imagine if the case had gone to this Puppy saying, no, Abba Kyari had no involvement. And you have Abba Kyari saying, no, I have no involvement. It becomes difficult. You needed to get one end of the two people to come in. So they waited agreement. And in that plea agreement, he agreed that everything he said was true, which is important. They had to make sure of that because when they put him in the witness box against Abba Kyari, he will not be turning against his own words. So now that they got Hush Puppy saying, hey, Abba Kyari was part of it. Now that leaves only Abba Kyari to defend himself to say he wasn't part of it. So Abba Kyari will never get out of it. So they waited until they had Hush Puppy in their pocket. They went after Abba Kyari. So now the investigation in Nigeria by IGP, you are seeing a top official, the most highly decorated police officer in Nigeria, about to become a criminal defendant. Indeed, he's already a criminal defendant in the United States, but about to be tried. You don't want a deputy commissioner of police standing trial in a foreign country, how much less getting convicted and being sent to prison. So there are two important objectives, self-serving, you may say, self-serving objectives from the IGP. They are not hearing Abba Kyari to determine if he's guilty or not for the purpose of the criminal indictment in the United States. Absolutely not. Their input is not needed. U.S. Justice Department doesn't give a damn what the IG thinks. They already made their case. IG will not be a witness. So it doesn't matter to them. What is going on here on Abba Kyari has nothing, one way or the other, to do with the criminal indictment in the United States of Abba Kyari. But it serves two purposes for the IGP. One, it wants to set in motion a process to dismiss Abba Kyari, so that by the time Abba Kyari gets to the United States, he will not be a Nigerian police officer. The record will not be a Nigerian police officer is being tried and is being convicted or serving jail time. No, the record will be that an ex-police officer is being tried. So the process of rendering Abba Kyari an ex-officer is what is going on now. Another process going on now is to ascertain what he'll be telling the police, the FBI, because that will help the IGP understand how many other Nigerian police officers might be implicated. Because what you don't know and what many people have forgotten to realize was FBI, when they look at the charts on Abba Kyari's telephone, they will not just be looking at the chat between Abba Kyari and Hush Puppy. No, they'll be looking at chat between Abba Kyari and a host of other people. They will find chats and communications between Abba Kyari and other police officers, other powerful people and politicians. Just the same way Abba Kyari was able to send a picture of Vincent Chibuzo to Hush Puppy, a picture of the guy in detention to Hush Puppy to say, hey, we got him in detention. This is proof that I have done my work as you asked me to do. Abba Kyari must have been doing the same thing. Must have been taking pictures of suspects, or rather people he arrested and detained, taking pictures of them with bruises on them, because in this Hush Puppy case, Hush Puppy told him to beat Vincent. So we don't know if he beat Vincent, and if he did beat Vincent, he will also take pictures showing Vincent's injuries from the beating. Oh yes. So if he had told him to kill Vincent, and he killed Vincent, he would have sent a picture of Vincent's dead body as proof that he did his work. So Abba Kyari's WhatsApp is a nightmare for Nigerian police. Okay. Abba Kyari's WhatsApp record is a nightmare for Nigerian police and Nigerian government. So the IG wants to know. The question is, will he know? And if he knows, what will he do? That is the point.
Okay, so go ahead. Let's allow Elder Sango, his hand has been up. Let's allow him make comments. Remember that our time is fast spent, but because of the time you left and coming back, we would extend our discussion for probably another 30 minutes. Elder Sango, the floor is yours.
Okay. My contribution is that Abba Kyari must go to US and clear himself. Here it is a suspect awaiting proof. Asking question whether US has right or that territory, they have the order, they have the right. And to start with, the US is a superpower. So Nigeria cannot stand the challenge. Now that practicing due process, what of other people they pick up without due process? And FBI is a very strong institution. As Ugwuonye have said, they have gone too far. They have no it all. They have many things. Now we're talking of Hush Puppy. Maybe the time Abba Kyari will get to US, he will have enough. So it's, what I think police is doing now is packaging image laundering to hear from him and prepare him where he's going. Because I know the expert police, the Nigerian police have lawyers, have good people too, who can do a good job if they want to do. So they'll be talking to him, hear more about him, that prepare his defense. And what they will do now is under suspension. Next thing you will hear in a few times is dismissed. If they dismiss him, he go there as an individual. He's not going there again as a police officer, as a Nigerian police officer. So we go there and answer in case. So with my calculation and with my experience, so I know within 2 or 3 weeks, up to 2 weeks, Abba Kyari will be a dismissed police officer in Nigerian police to enable him privately go and answer his case. That's my take.
Okay. Mr. Ugwuonye.
Yes.
Okay, remember that Abba Kyari was the commander of the police intelligence response team, and he was also a former deputy. He is now a suspended deputy commissioner of police. How powerful is this police intelligence response team that he would have his own prison? Like you said initially, that there was an Abba Kyari prison in Abattoir. How powerful is this team to have his own prison?
You know, it is mind-boggling to say that one police officer has a detention center that he runs by himself. But this is the irony of the Nigerian police. There is a total breakdown in command and control and checks and balances. I'll give you an instance. When I was in Abattoir, I found out that any police officer up to a certain rank can detain anybody. Anybody who can sign a detention order can detain anybody, and it's so random. I was in Abattoir when a man died in Abattoir. One of the inmates just died, the first of my experience there. And they quickly covered him. They came and said, barrister, a guy died. I came out, you know, with my general knowledge. The first question I asked was, what was his name? Nobody knew his name. Nobody knew his name, which is shocking. So they contacted his IPO. The person they thought was the IPO that brought him, of course, he might have known his name, but he didn't want to take responsibility. So he denied that that was his suspect. So all of a sudden, this dead man had was nobody's suspect. No name, nothing, a dead body, and he was taken away. A dead body and a named person. So is it possible that Abba Kyari could have, any police officer could have his own detention? Yes, because of the way things happen. Nobody was controlling anybody. Abba Kyari himself created a pocket of autonomy and power to himself. He learned it as the head of SARS in Lagos. He had power to do anything. And it was very simple. If you can call somebody an armed robber and then kill that person, and he's then cups a dead body, and he says an armed robber, and journalists come there, they photograph his body and report an armed robber killed, and that's the end of it. So you find a permissive system that made it possible for him to do whatever he did. Okay, now let me give you another example that will surprise your audience. Sometime in the past, the wife of the central bank governor, Emeka, was kidnapped. A ransom of 100 million was paid. And the kidnappers released her. Shortly after that, 11 people were paraded by Abba Kyari for that crime. And after that, 7 of them were executed by the police. 4 people are standing trial for the kidnapping of Mrs. Emeka. Those 4 people standing trial today, staying in the Kuje, standing trial, did not know who the wife of Emeka was. They never met the woman. They never kidnapped the woman. They were not part of it. Somehow, they got implicated, and I'll be very quick because this is trailing. One of those 4 men standing trial today happened to be a driver who was called by one of the kidnappers to come and take him. He didn't know why he called him. He had taken him before. He went and got the man. And the man joined them. When he was going, he said, I can't come. I have people in my car. I have my friends in my car. I can't come and take you. He said, no, no, come now. Come with your friends. They went, picked him up. He put a Ghana must go bag in the trunk of the driver's car. And they moved with the guy. The guy looked haggard somehow. When they passed near a market, the guy told the driver, stop, let me go and buy a change of clothes. The man went into a market to buy a change of clothes, not knowing that the police IRT team were tracking his number. They were following him very closely. So they got him in the market, arrested him from the market, took him, and the question was, so this driver waited for him, did not see him for a while. He drove off. Then they discovered 20 million in his bag. That 20 million was probably that man's share of the ransom money. So they went, and stupidly, these 4 boys shared the money. They didn't know where it came from. They didn't know what it was all about, but they knew it was some terrible money somehow. So the team, the policemen arrested this man. The question they kept asking him is, where is your share? Where is your money? He told them, I left it in a car. Which car? He gave them the phone number of the police, of the driver. The next morning, the police came to the driver, arrested him. So where is the money? They said, we shared it. They got all the 4 other people who participated in sharing the money, arrested all of them. They are the ones standing trial. You know, Abba Kyari had, you know, his sense of, he knew these guys did not kidnap the woman, so they were spared. But they are now the ones facing that trial. But those 11 people were paraded. It wasn't kill them on the spot. No newspaper, no journalist ever said, where are the people? Where are the 11 people that kidnapped this woman? How come only 4 are being tried? No journalist knew that. Okay, now let me ask you. In the case of Wadume, Wadume was presented to the world as a king kidnapper.
Okay, I believe our guest is having some network challenges. Remember that you can raise your hand with 2 hands, and I'll try to accommodate as much questions as possible before we would have to conclude the show. We are talking about Abba Kyari and the thing with Abba Kyari, a facade of the Nigerian police fight against corruption. Mr. Loka, I can see your hand up.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, I had wanted to direct my questions to the barrister, but unfortunately, I think he's off again. So I would have loved him to take my questions directly.
Well, when he comes in, we'll try to repeat the question. But go ahead, let's hear you first.
Oh, okay. I wanted him to, to give some insight on what I call professional analysis on what is the best deal for Nigerian police vis-a-vis the Nigerian state. In the case of Abba Kyari, what is the best deal for Abba Kyari for himself? What is the best deal for them before the prosecutors in American government? What does he think is the best thing legally that they should do to avoid this looming? Because according to his analysis, he said that what Nigerian government through the police IGP wants to find out is what this young man is going to be divulging to the American prosecutors. Being a highly rated police officer who is privy to so many state secrets, how much of them should be divulged during interrogation, and all those facts. A man of his caliber has so many things in his curfew that belongs to state, information that belongs to state alone. But under trial, or maybe what I call interrogation, he might divulge some secrets where it shouldn't be divulged. So what is the best bet for Nigerian government to stop this impending loom? If this man sets to start talking? Yeah, that is my question. I have other questions, but probably let's take it one after the other. Thank you.
Okay, still waiting to join in again. If you have it's better you say it now so we can just tell him when he gets in here. We're still waiting for him to join in. Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
You were saying something before
So
the network.
Yes, before the network came, I will be quick. So, Nigerian journalists, everybody, including Elombah television, all heard about Wadume, the man that was supposed to be the king of all kidnappers. Now, Wadume incident led to a clash between soldiers and policemen under Abba Kyari, and 3 police officers were gone dead by the soldiers. It was rumored that Wadume was so powerful that he got soldiers working for him. Though there was a joint investigation, joint between military and the police, at the end of it, all those soldiers were found to have done nothing wrong. So none of those soldiers was ever charged to court. None. None of them was ever disciplined. In fact, they got promotion. They did good job. But no newspaper carried it. And Wadume is being tried before Justice Nyako of the Federal High Court now. No journalist ever cared to know that Wadume was never charged with kidnapping. The only offense they charged Wadume with was unlawful possession of arm. So now, how come that this big showcase ended up like this? Because Abba Kyari also controlled the media. He controlled what gets out, and nobody, see, our system, our problem, we can blame the police all we like. If we don't have accountability and system of checks and balances, if journalists will attend a parading of a suspect, like a suspect is paraded, a good example is Chidinma Ojukwu. If our journalists cannot ask the commissioner, where is her lawyer? Where is her lawyer? You see, it's like you see a sick person. You want to report that he's sick, and you cannot ask that sick person if he has seen a doctor. That means something is wrong with you. So why is it that our journalists cannot ask the police commissioner when they're parading a suspect? Has this suspect spoken to a lawyer? Why can't you ask the suspect, have you seen a lawyer? They won't do that. But they listen to the teleguided story of a suspect, and they peddle it and praise the police for crime fighting. As long as that is happening, the police, like Abba Kyari, will do every showmanship trick to please himself, get an award, praise himself. So please, when I criticize the police tonight, I'm sure my criticism has been very tough, but I want to make it clear they are not alone. A whole lot of people in this country participate. Judges, journalists, lawyers participate. By the way, when we talk about those false allegations, petitions you write to the police that, oh, threats to life, who writes those petitions? Lawyers. Lawyers fabricate petition and make allegations that would justify extreme violence against a person. So it is very profound. We're looking at it. Okay, now, to address the question of the young man who asked what would Nigerian government do, let me say this. There is no limit to what a government can do at diplomatic level to save face. Nigerian government can actually get to the President of the United States and say, please, we're in a mess. This is going to damage our relations. This is going to damage our government. Please do not strike as much as you intended. We're going to, in other words, Nigerian government can participate in the plea negotiation for Abba Kyari. They can participate in negotiating the plea deal to say, well, we're handing him over to you without any resistance. Otherwise, we can actually stay in court fighting his extradition for the next 5 years. But this man agrees to waive, to surrender himself to jurisdiction on the following terms. We want you to just charge, let him plead for money laundering or conspiracy, and you give him a charge, let's not try anything else, let's not expand to other things. In fact, Nigerian government can call US and say, please, let us know the scope of charges that may come. What is it that could come? What are you likely to charge? That's what clever lawyers do. You don't wait until your client is charged. You can formulate an idea what the client is going to face, and you can negotiate what is to be charged, because to charge a person involves some decision-making process. We call it charging decision. And that decision is not judicial. It is the prosecutor's decision. It is still in the executive arm of government. So it is negotiable. It's not like bribing judges. Judges are not involved yet. So if you have a client who is likely to face charges, you don't wait. You go and ask, what are the charges likely to come? Which is what I was saying in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, that the lawyers are not asking about future charges that dwelling on past charges. So Nigerian government can actually negotiate the plea deal to lessen the embarrassment, to save face. Now, it also depends on the attitude of the United States government. As far as I can see, the Americans are happy that they have Nigerian police in their pocket. They do have Nigerian police in their pocket. Make no mistake about it. Listen, the WhatsApp record, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. Listen, what you are seeing about Abba Kyari is WhatsApp. Is it not when you go to Facebook? Is it not what you make public that people see? No. The FBI are seeing his private chats. His FBI is seeing whether he dated a woman whose husband she arrested. The FBI is seeing what messages Abba Kyari was sending to girlfriends of people arrested who came to plead for their release. When they walk into his office and say, please, sir, release my boyfriend, what happens? They know. And what the Nigerians don't know is that your phone also indicates where you are. Your phone tells us your location. Your phone tells us your contacts and contacts of your contacts and contacts of your contacts. So, and the phone tells us the content. Even when you delete these things, they're not deleted. They're not deleted on Facebook. Your WhatsApp, you can delete it on your device, but WhatsApp, Facebook still has permanent record of what was on your message you sent and deleted. So now, the FBI has got Nigeria in its Nigerian policeman pocket. And to tell you the truth, if you're a U.S. crime fighter, if you are U.S. Justice Department, and you find government officials aiding in a major crime pattern that worries you, what do you do? What do you do? And you find chief officer in Colombia aiding drug traffickers, helping load drugs into plane and land it in the United States. That's, let me say this again. Every country owes a duty to other countries of the world. The duty to make sure that no harm befalls those other countries from theirs. Countries that produce drugs have duties to make sure they help prevent flow of drugs to other countries. Countries that manufacture arms have a duty to make sure that arms are not being smuggled to other countries. And countries that manufacture fraudsters, like Nigeria, a country that produces fraudsters, has a duty to make sure that fraudsters originating from countries that engage in cyber insecurity, like Russia, hackers. You see, President Biden was talking with Putin on how to control the activities of hackers from Russia. So now, Nigeria produces fraudsters, and these fraudsters are threatening America. And the reason Nigerian fraudsters seem uncontrollable is because some elements in Nigerian police aid them. So from the point of view of U.S. Justice Department, this is God sent. God just gave you to them. So you can now, through Abba Kyari's WhatsApp, you can see how he got promoted. You can see the award he got, who sponsored the award. You can see the things said, and you can trace it. His communication with other IGs are there. His communications with governors are there. Everything. So somebody asking, what would Nigeria do? Nigeria may try to save face. I can tell you Nigeria will negotiate. They should negotiate. Otherwise, it will be the biggest black eye they'll get.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ugwuonye. Our time is fast as we've spent more time than we intended originally, but I'm still seeing two hands up. If you have a comment or a question, remember to raise your two hands, and I will try to take it. But for now, I'm seeing two hands up. Comrade Ifeanyi, the floor is yours. But please try to be very brief, as there is no time at all. Comrade Ifeanyi. Okay, Comrade Ifeanyi is not here. Let's go to Elombah Television. Elombah Television, your hand is up. Elombah Television, if you're also not here, we would have to move on.
Unmute myself. Thank you very much, Mr. Ugwuonye. It's a pleasure to have you around. We know very well your history and your knowledge about some of these issues. So my question to you will be, in the Nigeria police, we have special units like SARS, STS, IRT. Even though the Nigeria police said they have disbanded SARS, we know there is a new creation that does the work of SARS. We have Special Anti-Robbery Squad, Special Tactical Squad, Intelligent Response Squad. These are all squads within the Nigeria police. First, my question would be, number one, do you think that these special police units have been of any use to the Nigeria police, or they have had a debilitating effect on the Nigeria police?
Well, the answer to that question is relatively easy. These special units that are creating are nonsense. They are instruments of corruption. You will ask yourself, why do you have police command in each state, and yet you create these special forces in Abuja, making it possible for Abba Kyari to move from Abuja to Akwa Ibom to arrest people? What about the police commissioner in Akwa Ibom state? So you have essentially centralized Nigerian police force in violation of Nigerian law. Why do I say in violation of Nigerian law? In Akwa Ibom. You can't try it in Abuja. So why do you go to Akwa Ibom, arrest suspects, detain them in Abuja, and then maybe ship them back to Akwa Ibom to try them, or maybe fabricate other lies to see if you can try them in Abuja? The whole thing is nonsense. It is undue centralization of the police force operationally. It can't work, and it had failed repeatedly. All these special forces you mentioned, there are more. You have anti-cult, anti-vice, anti-vehicle theft, which is stupid. That's not how police force runs. You know why? I'll give you an example. In one of the cases I was involved in as an investigator, a woman went missing. And that woman, 2 days after she went missing, a body of an unidentified person was found. But because they referred the case as missing, they took it to anti-kidnapping units. Special team dealing with kidnapping was handling it. And you know what happens? That team does not have jurisdiction to go into general homicide. It wanted to keep that case as a kidnapping case. Even when evidence was pointing to something else. Because, they protect their turf. Nigerian police are poorly funded, not because money was not released, but because the organs at the top take the money. They take the money, and the ordinary policemen are suffering. They pay their own fuel, the fuel for their own vehicle movement, or the complainant pays. The police buy their own shoes, their own uniforms, and their own pen and stationery for writing reportage. Police officer has his own. Yes, Every inspector sergeant has his own personally procured stationary paper. So when the case comes initially misclassified as a missing person kidnapping case and given to the kidnapping unit would do everything to keep that case a kidnapping case, even when it is not a kidnapping case. So that was why, in that instance I gave you, a woman was being looked for by anti-kidnapping group. And why did he go to anti-kidnapping group? Because the husband of the woman went and told the police that some people took his wife with intent to blackmail him. So when 3 days after, an unknown, unidentified body was discovered somewhere in the same city, the police began to handle it differently. There was no effort to link the two. No effort to ask, is this woman we're looking for the dead woman, the unidentified woman? So the police, different units of the police have two cases. So the tactical unit, because when you look at what the STS does, IRT does, you find this are all overlapping. It's the same thing. There is no difference. There's no justification for that. If you don't want to have police command in Enugu, don't have police command in Enugu, but you have the police commissioner in charge of Enugu command. And yet, when a crime occurs in Enugu, maybe a land dispute going on in Enugu, one of the disputants will go to Abuja and report a threat to life, give money to Abba Kyari. Abba Kyari will swoop in Enugu and take everybody and shoot a few of them and call them kidnappers or whatever he likes to call them. So the whole thing is a failure. It is a total failure. There is no need to centralize these tactical units. And by the way, when they said that SARS was disbanded, it is the biggest joke. It is not the name that matters. It is the method of operation. You can call it SARS, you can call it anything, but the method persisted. The method of SARS was used by IRT, and I can tell you, by the time the protests, the end SARS protest started, SARS was no longer the biggest killer in the country. SARS was no longer the worst killing squad in the Nigerian police. They had been replaced by IRT and STS. So you can disband SARS or do whatever, it means nothing.
Thank you very much.
Let's allow Mr. Ugwuonye to conclude this matter, because he mentioned it in the pre-interview talk. We want to clarify what he's saying now, that SARS was no longer the biggest extrajudicial killer in Nigeria. We want him to expand on that. It's very important.
Okay.
There was a.
Go ahead.
You have to understand how these guys emerged. Abba Kyari was in Lagos as head of SARS. He graduated to something bigger, and he went with some of his officers. He trusted and worked with them. They were there. And that's why the Abattoir Detention Center in Abuja, a 15 billion annual revenue business enterprise, criminal business enterprise. So the whole issue is SARS had mellowed down. I spoke to 600 inmates within a period of 2 weeks. I interviewed them. I don't know how they did it, but they placed me in the middle of these people. And I had opportunity to talk to them. I was curious to understand how these things worked. How many people are here? And then the executions. If they come to Abattoir in the evening, 6 p.m., usually on Fridays, and take 6 people, they just call them. They go. They will not come back. They have been disappeared. They have been traveled. The world is traveling. They travel them. So it is a menace. And also, the same method SARS used was being used by IRT. For instance, if they accuse you of armed robbery and take you, they will go to your house and raid your house. They steal everything. And do you know the funny thing? Some of the inmates in detention will see their IPO coming to visit them wearing their clothes. And they said to me, barrister, this is my IPO. That clothes he's wearing is my clothes. That shoe he's wearing is my shoe. That phone he's holding is my phone. So they go with a trailer to the house of a suspect still in detention, and they will take everything. When I mean everything, even spoon and fork and knife will be taken away. If they have landed properties, they steal it. So at some point I said, if these people could steal the properties of suspects and share it among themselves, that in itself has become the motive for the suspicion, the motive of arrest of somebody. We have had cases. They detain people, take them to ATM, take them to bank. A person in custody, arrested by the police, is taken by the police to the bank. He withdraws all his money in cash. They give it to him, he comes out and gives it to the police. What happened was so mind-boggling. And I keep saying this, Elombah, because many Nigerians did not understand me. They thought I was out to hurt a few police officers. They thought I was seeking the fall of a few police officers, and those few police officers declared themselves my enemy. No, no, no. I want to see a change in the Nigerian police force. If we don't have it, no other reform in this country will make sense. No other reform. Because the corruption in the police will enter into elections, because they monitor elections. It will undermine everything else. Our judges are scared because they provide security to the judges. So if you're a judge and you keep annoying the police commissioner by giving verdicts against his wishes, you won't have a happy career. So it is a very menacing, dangerous, unprecedented situation. If we say that Nigeria is becoming a failed state, I want you to know that the failure will start and end in Nigerian police force. That is how bad this situation is. And we must all take responsibility. It's not enough to blame the officers, or any particular officers. But you see, Elombah, I know that time is not there, but let me give you another context. Do you blame the police officers? They see senators amass so much wealth for doing nothing. They see representatives amass so much wealth for doing nothing. And now the policeman has gone a real power directly over an individual. How can you not expect him to try to be as wealthy as his senator neighbor? That is why every police commissioner in Nigeria, every IG in Nigeria is a multi-millionaire in dollars. Where does it happen in the world? If I say that, also the controller of prison in Nigeria, multi-millionaire compared to others in the world. But if I say that, they will tell me that Nigerian senator is also more wealthy than the American senator on the average. So you see, it's a problem. We must tackle it. But we must tackle it without necessarily singling out individuals. That's why I said, if you noticed, I don't want to mention the name of officers who did what and what, because these officers were acting under a chain of command in a system. Even when somebody is extrajudicially killed, maybe somebody not in the police force, paid for it, a powerful person. So comprehensive reform of the police must involve comprehensive reform of the criminal justice system. And when they ask me, what are the immediate steps to be taken? One immediate step to be taken is that Nigerian police should not prosecute any crime beyond traffic offenses. Beyond traffic offenses, they should never. Because when you ask Nigerian police to prosecute capital offenses, sometimes they pass judgment on capital cases and execute it. So take away prosecutorial power from the police, take it away completely. Take away this notion that some offenses are not bailable. Take away this notion that no preliminary objection can arise in criminal justice until the end of trial. No, take it away. So a key thing, a few things needs to be done. And I have itemized them, probably for another occasion. If we do it in the immediate step, you change the face of the police. And then, of course, let us make sure we need to monitor the way they spend the police votes. If you know the way they spend the police votes, you will be very shocked. Because a chunk of the money goes to senators who approve the budget. It's a terrible thing. That is why the police officer, the junior police officer, is the poorest man on earth. There is no police officer whose salary will be enough to feed him and his family. No police officer. So we're deceiving ourselves. You give a man AK-47 and you give him 27,000 naira salary, and then you ask him to monitor the society. What do you expect? It's a terrible situation. So what is going on is not a thing that can be discussed in one instance. I'm hoping that Elombah will continue to show interest in this area and hold many, many more interviews and conduct many more investigations. And you know what? You know why it has to be done? If we don't do it here, FBI will do it for us. Because I can tell you, the way the FBI's go, the information they have on Abba Kyari, they can extract a little bit and use it to deal with Abba Kyari now. Then they get the other ones and pursue the other officers. But it's no longer an easy thing. Their modus operandi had been busted. Their WhatsApp is no longer safe. You can't arrest or intimidate a person through WhatsApp now. So it is a mess, big mess. But honestly, this is important, and I hope you can ask more questions before you guys go.
Okay. Ikem Ibodike, see your hand up. Elombah Television, please, if you have made your contribution, kindly lower your hand so I can move to the next person. Ikem Ibodike, if you're ready, please make your contribution and be very, very, very brief. If you're not ready, okay, go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just have to ask a question to Barrister Ugwuonye. His submission is very insightful. Number one, is Abba Kyari working for anybody, or why does it appear to be above the law and seeking for knowledge? Secondly, why is it with this depth of corruption in Nigerian police? Can it be taken as a reason why the federal government have not wanted to allow state police in Nigeria? Just these two questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the next person. So Mr. Ugwuonye can reply to both at the same time. And Mary Rose, I can see your hand up. You can please kindly lower your hand so that I will know that you asked the question. Mary?
Yes, good evening.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Okay, I think we're having network issues. Merit, if you cannot speak, kindly forward your comment to the chat box and I'll try to read it out. Merit, I don't know if you can hear me, but if your network is giving you problems, kindly forward your comments to the chat box and I'll try to read it out. Okay, I can see a message from.
Okay. Why don't you allow Mr. Ugwuonye to address the topic, the question from?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm calling Mr. Ugwuonye for now. Mr. Ugwuonye, in terms of the question,
is Abba Kyari above the law or working for himself? No, Abba Kyari was working in a very decadent system where there had been significant loss of central control or clear chain of command. So in that sort of situation, each influential officer creates a pocket of influence. And Abba Kyari had been working across the lines to ensure two things. One, he wanted to make himself indispensable in the police force. And that is why you hear this award he's giving himself, sponsoring bloggers to call him super cop, to praise him, to be the best crime buster in the world. So with that sort of thing, even his superiors become wary of replacing him. They become wary. But also, remember, he amassed wealth. All these things they're doing, it's not just because he was making a mistake. The reason he arrested Vincent, no, he saw money for himself. He's making money. That is why it is known and rumored that Abba Kyari is probably worth $1 billion or more naira. Where did he get all that money? So that is considerable influence he gathered. And without checks, he could practically do as much as he wants. If you are, let's say you are an IG of police, when he has presidential recognition, First Lady's Award, Bar Association Award, everybody's praising him, and you are IG, you are dealing with a monster. You are dealing with something you cannot do much about. And with that influence, and by the way, it was known that Abba Kyari was gearing and warming himself up towards becoming eventually an IG of police in Nigeria. Very clear. That's why what is happening now is very important. And I will tell you this, what Nigerians don't really know. The world sees us. I was in the prison when I had an idea that Abba Kyari was going to get into trouble. Because in a conversation with a visitor that I had in the prison, that person said to me that Abba Kyari would never be an IG of police. I asked him, why would you say that? He said, because they had his record. And this was before Hush Puppy exploded. And I can tell you something, that the Americans could have been watching Hush Puppy for more than a year. They could have been on him for more than a year. And this idea Nigerians had, that Hush Puppy went and sang like a bird and gave them the name of Abba Kyari. That's not how the FBI works. They don't even trust you if you start originating anything. They ask the questions. The FBI would have asked Hush Puppy specific question. They will show him a text message from Abba Kyari and said, what was this? That's how they operate. I believe that they were the ones that led Hush Puppy to confirm, not to act, to confirm information they already had. And they were confirming it for the purpose of trial. That is, to obtain a plea bargain and use that plea bargain to nail Abba Kyari. Not because they needed any information. In fact, they knew more. The FBI knew more about Abba Kyari's activity than Hush Puppy. And the FBI knew more about Hush Puppy's activity than Abba Kyari knew. FBI is the big brother in this instance. They see everything you did. So Abba Kyari was not working for, he was working for a government, working for Nigerian police force, but there has been so much rot in Nigerian police force and control has been whittled away, and each pocket of police officers were doing whatever they want. They set up the IG monitoring unit. The IG monitoring unit was supposed to observe the activities of Nigerian police and make sure they are all loyal and consistent with the wishes of the IG, to bring them under the same rules of engagement and make sure they comply with those rules. But what happened? IG monitoring unit became an operational command on itself. They began to arrest people, prosecute people, or rather, investigate people. They formed their own tactical unit. And if you noticed, the new IG of police recently disbanded, or rather modified IG monitoring unit and said they should no longer conduct investigations. They should no longer, but why did he have to do that? Because he found that the IG monitoring unit had become a corrupt entity in itself. So that is the circumstance in which Abba Kyari began to act like a god unto himself, and it's quite right to ask that question. Now, the issue of state police. State police has a multi-level problem about it. There is fear. The fear that state police might devolve down to a militia answerable to a region. The same reason they resisted Amotekun when it came, the same thing they needed guarantees, and the same thing they resisted the equivalent of Amotekun in the East until recently, when they allowed the Bubagu, when IPOB left them no option but to do something. They don't want state police because they believe that Enugu State Police will be occupied by Enugu people. And if there is a real threat of secession or breakup of Nigeria, those officers could quickly, having been trained in arms, will be easily converted to a regional army against the central government. These fears are there. These fears are not justified. It's important to break up Nigerian police in the manner where you have state commands, state operations. It will not prevent there being a federal police force. Like in the United States, the FBI is actually the federal police force in the United States. Every state in America has its own state police. In fact, every local government in America has its own local government, county police. Okay, and not only that, even colleges in the United States, we have Harvard Police. Harvard University has its own police force. Likewise, others. So the point is, the fear against state police is unjustified, but it has more to do with the major problem of Nigeria, fearing secession, fearing a breakup, more than anything else. But also, of course, it contributes, lack of state police contributes to inefficiency and corruption in the police force as we have it. That is my answer to the second leg of that question.
Okay, Oseloka, your hand is up. If Merit don't come back, then you will be our last comment before we round up. Oseloka, your hand is up. Oseloka, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me.
We can't hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, please. I want to be fast about my question, and I'm directing it to Barrister. I want to ask, in an event Nigerian government turns down the extradition request from America to turn in Abba Kyari, what do you think, or what are the legal implications? What do you think the American government can do on diplomatic law? Secondly, I want to also ask, the issue of Nigerian police. What do you think, or how do you suggest, although you mentioned, anyway, because of time factor, the second question would take elaborate time. So let's just answer, let him just focus on this first one. In event Nigeria turns down the extradition request, what do you think American government will do? Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry,
Nigeria.
Mr. Ugwuonye, before you answer that, let's see. Merit, are you ready? Let him take both questions at once. Merit, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Ugwuonye.
Okay, very well. This is a very important question, but it is actually more academic. Nigeria will not turn down the United States request. So many things will be at stake. It will destroy a number of critical cooperation Nigeria needs from the United States. And the US cooperation with Nigeria is so important because it touches on virtually a wide range of things, including fighting the insurgency, fighting the bandits, as you're hearing recently that arms are being supplied by United States to Nigeria. And as you heard, President Jonathan complained that US did not give him weapons, sell weapons to him. As a result, he could not fight insurgents. So that alone is enough to scare any Nigerian president. Nigeria is a relatively weak country. Despite the braggadocio you're seeing, Nigeria is a relatively weak country, cannot stand international pressure much. Because the pressure coming internationally will actually highlight some of the fault lines we have in Nigeria today. So that will not happen, really. But assuming it happens, United States had a number of options. Some selected sanctions will cripple Nigeria relatively fast. Absolutely. For instance, if there is a sanction against any organization dealing with Nigerian government or dealing with certain people in Nigerian government, for instance, no organization will provide healthcare services. If you do that, the British hospitals where Nigerian presidents go for medical treatment might be in trouble. They might begin to wonder if rendering services to the Nigerian president could expose them to sanctions, US sanctions. That's a major constraint. And if you say don't grant visa to Nigerian politicians, do you know how many of their children need to go to the United States? The pressure is there. And one thing you understand about these international communities, that when sanctions begin to come, other countries tend to respect or mirror in support the sanctioning state, especially the United States. If Russia, as powerful and as independent as Russia is, if Russia could be complaining about American sanctions, American sanctions will cripple Nigeria within a relatively few months. It will alter politics. It will result in regime change. The politicians will have their careers on the line. I can tell you that. So I don't think Nigeria will risk that. Now, in the extreme possibility that United States Justice Department sees Abba Kyari in the same way they see drug dealers in Latin America, principal like Al Chapas, you know what they do? They can extract him from Nigeria. They can take him out from Nigeria. The United States has infinite resources and capabilities to do many things. But I don't think they will see him to that extent. But bear in mind that they see Nigerian connected scam as a systemic criminality, a crime pattern that is not isolated. They see it now in the mindset of the US Justice Department today is to see scam from Nigeria as much of a threat to the Americans as the drugs are a threat to Americans. So if you want to understand how they might react, you have to ask yourself, how did they react in respect of Latin American countries where they went in to get people considered drug lords? They went so far. So if you tell me whether they have the capacity to take Abba Kyari out of Nigeria, easy. It's very easy. Where will he be? So I don't think Nigeria is going to resist. What Nigeria is going to do is to negotiate. And if they negotiate well, Americans will demand things. And if those things are met, they may shift attention from Abba Kyari for now. They may demand things, but it's okay. Dismiss him from the police force. Dismiss him because we don't want such a person to remain a police officer. That could be one of the conditions. And yet, these criminal indictments don't close. They keep them forever. It could be a major control. The United States may actually come to Nigerian government and say, hey, from our investigation, we found that the following 20 police officers are doing similar things as Abba Kyari that involve the so and so and so. All these people, people arrested in America for fraud, FBI already checked their inboxes, their history of chats online. Some of them have friends in the police force. Patterns are being developed. United States have computers to do incredible work and link things up very fast. So the FBI may come in and say, okay, or US government may say, come in. We will let Abba Kyari off if you do the first from the, and we'll give the list 20 other officers, get them out of the police. These are the people who are doing certain things to hurt us. And we may request also Nigeria. We want access to your national security database. This NIN thing they're doing. Americans could say, well, give us access to it so we can stay here and monitor activities of Nigerians in Nigeria, since your police cannot do it. So there is a whole lot of things. Nigeria may be able to negotiate Abba Kyari out of this hotspot, whether Nigeria really defies the United States. Are we still there?
Yeah, we are still here.
Okay, I think there's connection. Okay, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that's the issue. Nigeria will not do so. Buhari will not do so because also it tarnishes the image of Buhari. Buhari wants to leave office and remain, as his supporters and the staff describe him, the man with the highest probity in the history of Nigerian leaders. He wants to leave office as the upright man, regardless of anything else, even if his government failed in policies and other things, alleviation of poverty, even if he fails in fighting crimes, he wants to be known as an honest man who did not endorse and support criminals. So I don't see Buhari as telling Americans not to prosecute Abba Kyari. No, I don't see that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ugwuonye.
Thank you.
I think our host's network is also causing some problems. It's been a very long chat with Mr. Ugwuonye for the past 2 hours. I don't think we will be doing you any further service to allow you to continue. I'm still seeing 3 hands. I don't know what to do now. I don't know what our guests want to do, whether to terminate this conversation now or to entertain further questions. So Augusta, what do you want? Okay, let's allow our host to come back. Let's see what, Ms. Ugwuonye, would you want to take 2 more questions or what do you want?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Daniel, this is very important. Elombah, this is very important. This is very important. One of the most misunderstood aspects of Nigerian history and development.
Okay, let me ask Amos. Amos, allowed to ask his question then.
Okay, good evening. I sincerely want to appreciate Barrister. I've sent my question to the chat, but it's like we are not picking question from there. That's why I raised up my hand. Now, he talked about a criminal case or murder case that was leveled against him. I want to really know about how was he able to come out of that?
Well, thank you. I'm going to be limited in the extent to which I'll comment on that case because it's still in court, and I don't want someone to say that Emeka was preempting the outcome of a case in court. But this is it. I was representing, or rather, the parents of a man accused of murder contacted me and asked me to represent their son. I said, well, for me to represent their son, I need to speak to the son. I need to see him. He was being held in abattoir. I requested access to him. They denied access. All of a sudden, that man was paraded. And in the parade, it appeared as if he confessed to the crime. I was furious. I noticed that during the parading, he had no access to a lawyer. How can you parade a man who had no lawyer and tell me he confessed after he has been in custody for weeks? So I didn't buy it. So I went and made a post on Facebook. And I said that the confessions seemed not voluntary. And I further said that the police, Nigerian police, were incompetent. And I meant it. You don't parade people without lawyers. It's pointless. They're entitled to counsel. And you don't parade people with physical injuries on their body, because that raises a suspicion of torture. Because I wrote that Nigerian police were incompetent, they wanted to teach me a lesson. They called me to their office, asked me, why did I say they were incompetent? I said, you are incompetent. And an officer there ordered me detained in abattoir. That was the turning point. After going to abattoir for 1 weekend and came out, I began to talk against abattoir. What I saw was too much. And these people knew, if you allow Emeka to continue to talk about what he saw in abattoir, there will be a riot. In other words, the End SARS protest would have occurred 2 years in advance. So the question was, let us silence him. And how do you silence him? They now accused me of being part of the armed robbery case, a murder case against that man that I was trying to represent. Their reasoning was simple. If you say he's innocent, then that means you knew who did it, which is so bizarre. So they first took me to 5 different magistrate courts, looking for a magistrate that would deny me bail and hoping that after I have been to prison, detained in prison, I'll be too scared to continue. But each time I came out from each detention, I would see more things and I would speak more. On one occasion, they took me to a magistrate court. When they were driving to the magistrate court, they were calling around to know which magistrate would detain me. As bizarre as it was, which magistrate will do us a favor and deny him bail. They got one magistrate. The magistrate saw me and detained me in a very simple trick. He demanded for a written bail application. Magistrates don't ask for written bail application. But by demanding for written bail application, it meant I'll be detained until my bail will be applied for and argued. That's the corruption. The magistrate was corrupt. So I was detained. But I guess the magistrate went and checked and found out maybe this man will cause trouble. So the day I came, my bail was argued. He had granted bail. Not only granting me bail, this magistrate worked till 6 p.m. to make sure my bail was perfected that day. And the police prosecutor signed the bail for me to be released by prison. I was so shocked. I thought I was lucky. I thought he was a good man, the magistrate, working hard to get me free. I didn't know that the police had planned to arrest me, and the magistrate was helping them. That was why everything was being signed. And the reasoning was the magistrate would have said, hey, you want me to detain this guy? I can't detain him for the charges you have, because the charges they had was, I insulted the police, I defamed the police. With those charges, you can't detain me that long. They said, well, why not charge him with something serious like murder and armed robbery so that bail can be denied? But that means it will go to high court. So the police decided there and then, when the magistrate said, well, I've detained him for a week, I can't go any further, but I'll help you get him. So the police decided to charge me with murder and armed robbery, along with the man I went to represent, along with the man I was seeking justice for. And when I was charged with murder, you'll be very shocked what happened in Nigerian courts. Once murder or armed robbery is mentioned, it doesn't matter. Even if they accuse you of killing Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, it doesn't matter who you kill. The judges don't look at anything. Indeed, one of the judges said, if I hear that she doesn't wait for that to deny bail. So they charged me of armed robbery. Indeed, the day I went to court and they read my armed robbery charge, I almost protested, and the only reason I wanted to protest was the way they said I committed the armed robbery. They said I used machete to kill a woman. So I said, oh my God, what an insult, machete. That means I was the poorest armed robber in the country. I couldn't afford AK-47, so I used machete. So I wanted to raise my hand and said, my Lord, please change it from machete to AK-47. So how I came out, I was there. I was detained for 2 years. For 2 good years. 2 years and 2 months, actually. And why? Bail was denied. Bail was denied, and bail was denied automatically. What I mean automatically was without looking into anything. So I was there with the same man I went to represent. And it gave me the opportunity to earn PhD in our justice system. I know all that is happening, and that's what the judges are in it too. The lawmakers are in it too, and the media is in it too. Until Nigerian journalists can ask questions, until Nigerian journalists will insist that a person paraded should have a lawyer. But as long as our journalists are happy that the police commissioner invited them to witness the parading of a suspect, therefore we can't ask a question to offend the commissioner. That means next time he will not invite us. That is why you see, you are seeing, okay? That's why you saw the nonsense in the Chidinma. A girl accused of murder was arrested and detained, and the police are using her for show instead of charging her to court. Because journalists are happy to be giving audience, are so happy. And no journalist will ask the commissioner. If a serious journalist goes there, the question he will ask the commissioner will never parade anybody again. Really.
Okay.
So that is it. And one other thing I will say, Elombah television is this. Why police kill people? Okay. Can I go on?
Yes, you can. Yes, go on.
Just conclude, because please conclude.
All right. Can I go on?
Yes, go on and conclude.
Sometimes I have looked deeply into why the extrajudicial killing. It is because of absolute lack of faith in the judiciary. These suspects, you take them to court, even those ones that really committed a crime, they'll walk. Somebody asked a question, if I could write to the FBI to help clean the Orji table. You know, I would love to, but I can tell you that they don't need me. They don't need me. These guys have incredible facility. This is what will happen when Abba Kyari comes to the United States. They will take him. First, they will show a whole lot of things to his lawyer. His lawyer will understand the charges listed, and they can always amplify these charges. I believe that when Abba Kyari enters jurisdiction, they will modify the charges. Then they'll present everything to Abba Kyari's lawyers, and he will advise his clients. And Abba Kyari is going to ask his lawyers, what are the chances of conviction? And his lawyers will tell him that the chances are 95%, which is way too high for him to expect any outcome that is favorable to him. Then the lawyers will tell him that there is going to be a plea deal for him. But in the US Justice Department trials, you know, Abba Kyari is in a tough position unless he's willing to implicate more people. Unless he's going to sign a plea bargain, which will similarly require him to implicate and testify against other people. Some of those people may not have been mentioned. Indeed, there may be more sealed indictments that you haven't seen. So, and they will say to him, Abba Kyari will say, He wouldn't like to implicate people, certainly, because he would like to maintain the story that he's innocent. And that's what he's hoping. You know, in his life, he wants to preserve the remaining thing and stay in the minds of some people as the super cop who fought all criminals in Nigeria and got unlucky. So he wouldn't like to plead, but his lawyer will say, hey, you got to plead. If you don't plead, they'll find you guilty and they will sentence you. And these charges will involve the US sentencing. They don't necessarily run concurrently. They can run consecutively. So when you finish one, you start serving the other. So Abba Kyari's lawyer will show him a possible sentence that will span over 120 years. And Abba Kyari spending 120 years in American prison means that he will never come out of it alive. And the lawyer will also answer some other questions and say, well, if they sentence you, it doesn't really matter. It's a federal court and you can be sentenced to serve anywhere, including in Alaska or Hawaii prisons. If they put Abba Kyari in Hawaiian federal prison, it would be impossible for his family to come and visit him. Impossible. How would they go? If they put him in Alaskan federal prison. So the lawyer will help Abba Kyari understand the gravity of the circumstances. Then Abba Kyari will offer to plead. And when he offers to plead, the question becomes whether the Justice Department will concede, will grant him lenient plea terms. Whether they grant you lenient plea terms depends on what you offer them. That is why the first to plead, when you have a gang of multiple defendants, the first to plead guilty gets the best deal, because part of the reason he's pleading guilty is to hand in the rest and to testify against them.